Building just a 5-kilometer bridge will create a massive inter-Korean economic zone worth $5 billion annually. Episode 25, Gyodongdo-Haeju Economic Corridor. Central Bridge of the West Sea Peace and Cooperation Special Zone. Creating the miracle on the Gyodong River. North Korea's Workers' Party can do a market economy. The distance from the northern tip of Gyodong Island to Haeju in South Hwanghae Province is merely 10 to 15 kilometers. Gyodong Island is situated at the confluence of the estuaries of the Yesong River formed by the merger of the Han and Imjin Rivers and the Yesong River, and to the north it faces South Hwanghae Province across the Demilitarized Zone. Separated by this narrow sea, the south is home to the world's highest density manufacturing cluster, the Gyeonggi West Coast Belt of automotive parts, electronics, and semiconductor suppliers. To the north, however, lies a well-educated and orderly workforce and undeveloped industrial land. Even more decisive is the fact that, according to South Korea's National Land Development Plan through 2020, the West Coast Expressway is planned to be extended past Gyodong Island toward Haeju in South Hwanghae Province. In other words, this economic corridor concept is not entirely new, but is a concept that has already been officially included in South Korea's national land planning. The most important precedent for this initiative is contained in the official agreement reached between the two Koreas at the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. In this agreement, the South and the North decided to establish a special zone for peace and cooperation in the West Sea, encompassing the Haeju region and surrounding waters. The establishment of a special zone in the Haeju region creates significant economic synergy in its relations with Yesong and Incheon. At the time, the South Korean Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries also prepared a concrete implementation plan. It announced that Haeju Port would be developed in stages by 2015 to support the smooth handling of cargo produced in the Yesong Industrial Complex, and the future Haeju Industrial Complex, expanding to 8 berths, including 2 container berths, with a cargo handling capacity of 4.8 million tons. Regarding funding for the development of Haeju Port, the plan considered a method in which the port development infrastructure would be established using government funds, such as the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund, and then the operational rights would be transferred to the private sector for a certain period. Although this agreement was completely halted following the shooting death of a South Korean tourist at Mount Kumgang in 2008, the design itself remains a valid blueprint to this day. The Gyodong Bridge officially opened on July 1, 2014, connecting Gyodong Island and Gangwon Island. Gangwon Island is already connected to Gimpo City via the Gangwon Bridge and Choji Bridge, and expressways connecting Gimpo to Seoul and Incheon are fully established. In other words, it is possible to reach Gyodong Island by car from Gangseogu in Seoul or Seogu in Incheon within approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes. Additional connectivity networks are also underway in the direction of Incheon. Of the entire 14.6-kilometer section of the Yeongjongdo-Gangwado Peace Road, the first phase, the bridge connecting Yeongjongdo to Sindo, is scheduled to open in May 2026, while the construction of the second phase, an 11.4-kilometer bridge connecting Sindo to Gangwado, is being pursued as a long-term project. Incheon City expects that designating the southern tip of Gangwon Island as a free economic zone will enhance the project's feasibility. Due to its geographical influence, Haeju has seen early development in commerce and industry. In 1973, as Haeju Port was expanded from a military port into an international trade port, it became one of North Korea's 9 major industrial zones. Major industries include construction materials, chemicals, machinery, metalworking, shipbuilding, daily necessities, clothing, glass, and ceramics. Notably, the cement industry, utilizing abundant high-quality limestone as a raw material, is representative. Haeju Port faces the constraint that, in order to function properly as a harbor, it must secure water depth by dredging sand from the estuary area. The true value of the Gyodong Island-Haeju connection lies not only in the north, but also in its integration with the existing manufacturing cluster in the south. Looking at the major South Korean manufacturing hubs concentrated within a 100-kilometer radius, the Pyeongtaek Hwaseong Automotive Cluster houses Hyundai Kia Motors headquarters and factories, Samsung SDI and SK On battery plants, and thousands of automotive parts suppliers, the Incheon, Seogu, and Namdong industrial complexes, which include automotive parts, electronics, and machinery, the Ansan Sihyung Banwol Sihwa industrial complexes, which feature small and medium-sized precision machinery, metals, and electronic components, the Paju LCD and Semiconductor cluster, which includes LG Display's Paju plant and related suppliers, and the Gimpo Logistics and Manufacturing Complex, are all located within a 1 to 2 hour radius of Gyodong Island. The common challenges facing these clusters are rising labor costs, a shortage of factory sites, and manufacturing costs that are higher than those in China or Vietnam. The connection between Gyodong Island and Haeju provides a physical pathway that allows these clusters to drastically reduce manufacturing costs by dividing labor with North Korea's low-wage workforce. The shortest distance from the northern tip of Gyodong Island to the coast of Yeonbak County, South Hwanghae Province, is approximately 3 to 5 kilometers. If civilian use of this neutral water is permitted following the denuclearization agreement, bridge construction can commence. Phase 1 of the Gyodong Island Yeonbak County Northern Bank Bridge is approximately 5 kilometers long, featuring 4 lanes in each direction and concurrent railway use. The estimated construction cost is approximately 1 to 1.5 trillion won, with a construction period of 3 to 4 years. Phase 2 of the Yeonbak County Haeju City Connecting Road involves the construction of a new road of approximately 35 kilometers, or the expansion and paving of existing roads in South Hwanghae Province. Phase 3 of the Haeju-Kaesong Connecting Road utilizes the existing road network in South Hwanghae Province, spans approximately 80 kilometers, and connects to the Gyeonggi Expressway system. Once the bridge connecting the Gyodongdo-Haeju Economic Corridor is completed, the travel time by vehicle from Gangseogu, Seoul Gimpo Ganghwado Gyodongdo Bridge Yeonbaek Haeju, or the entire Kaesong route, will be approximately 2 hours and 30 minutes to 3 hours. While this is longer than the existing travel time of 1 hour and 30 minutes from downtown Seoul to the Kaesong Industrial Complex, it is a sufficiently practical distance for the operation of parts trucks. Let us examine the Inter-Korean Manufacturing Division of labor structure between the Haeju Special Economic Zone and the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The structure involves South Korean factories handling design, core components, and quality control, while North Korean factories in Haeju and Kaesong handle assembly, processing, and secondary components. The core concept is to replace the International Division of Labor currently practiced in China and Vietnam with an Inter-Korean Division of Labor. This is the most promising sector for the Division of Labor model in automotive parts. Hyundai Kia Motors suppliers in Pyeongtaek and Hwaseong can choose to either relocate their production bases, currently dispersed across China and India, to Haeju or operate them in parallel. The factories in Korea are responsible for precision mold manufacturing, core electronic components such as ECUs and sensors, and final quality inspections. The factories in Haeju handle injection molding and press processing, simple assembly of seats, interior materials, and wiring harnesses, as well as painting and surface treatment. Finished, semi-finished products can be delivered to the main factory in Pyeongtaek within 2 to 3 hours via the Gyodongdo-Yeonbak Bridge. Wiring harnesses, which act as the arteries of an automobile, are difficult to automate and therefore rely heavily on manual labor currently. Most of these are produced in China or Southeast Asia and imported. However, if production were shifted to Haeju or Kaesong, logistics time could be reduced from days to hours. Currently, Hyundai Motor Group's annual procurement volume for wiring harnesses alone amounts to trillions of won. The transition to Haeju production for this item alone would generate hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign currency revenue for North Korea annually. This is a division of labor model for electronic components and displays. The structure involves panel production at the LG Display factory in Paju, while Haeju handles module assembly specifically, the combination of backlights and cover glass. Round-trip logistics are possible, allowing semi-finished products to be transported via the existing agreed-upon direct sea route between Incheon and Haeju or the Gyodongdo Bridge, assembled in Haeju, and then the finished products to be transported back to Paju and Incheon via the Gyodongdo Bridge. Hundreds of small and medium-sized electronic component companies in the Banwol-Siwa Industrial Complex in Ansan and Siheung can reduce costs through outsourcing processing contracts with the Haeju factory. There is also a division of labor model for textiles, clothing, and footwear. This model has already been proven in the Yesong Industrial Complex. The Haeju Special Economic Zone differentiates itself from the Yesong Industrial Complex by specializing in different industries. The structure involves a division of roles. Yesong focuses on advanced precision electronics, machinery, and automotive parts, while Haeju attracts new OEMs for textiles, clothing, footwear, and bags. An export processing zone model, which involves importing fabrics via the direct Incheon-Haeju route, sewing in Haeju, and exporting to Incheon Port, is the most feasible model for operation in the shortest possible time. A division of labor model for food and agricultural product processing is also possible. South Hwanghae Province is North Korea's largest rice-producing region. Following denuclearization, it is possible for South Korean food companies such as CJ Cheiljedang, Nongshim, and Orion to establish food processing plants in Haeju to process North Korean agricultural products as raw materials, and then export them after negotiating the labeling of origin as South Korean. Logistics for importing processed foods to Incheon Port via the direct route from Haeju Port to Incheon can be immediately implemented with current technology. This is a design plan for the logistics system of the Gyodongdo-Haeju Kaesong Triangular Corridor. Logistics flow along 3 routes within this triangular corridor. The first is the land route via the Gyodongdo Bridge. Parts and materials are transported via the bridge to be delivered to factories in Haeju, while finished processed products are shipped out via the bridge. With cargo trucks capable of making 2 to 3 round trips per day, this route allows for the fastest response to delivery deadlines. The second is the direct sea route between Incheon and Haeju. This is a route where the passage of civilian vessels via a direct route to Haeju was already agreed upon in the 2007 Inter-Korean Agreement. With a distance of approximately 4 to 6 hours between Incheon and Haeju for container ships, it is suitable for bulk cargo such as raw materials and finished products. The third is the Gyeonggi Line Railway and the Haeju Branch Line. There are plans to construct the Gyeonggi High-Speed Railway, extending from Seoul through Kaesong and Haeju to Sariwon, Pyongyang, and Sinwiju. If this railway connection is realized, it will be possible to link the Kaesong Industrial Complex, the Haeju Special Economic Zone, and Incheon Port into a single railway logistics network. It is also necessary to devise a strategy that pursues the best interests for North Korea. From North Korea's perspective, the core value of the Haeju-Kaesong Division of Labor Corridor lies in its significantly larger area compared to the Kaesong Industrial Complex and its independent maritime outlet, Haeju Port. While the Kaesong Industrial Complex was structured to be entirely dependent on South Korean capital, the Haeju Special Economic Zone can be designed with a dual revenue structure based on both South Korean capital and exports to third countries via Haeju Port. Construction costs for transportation infrastructure, including bridges, roads, and ports, will be funded by the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund, or international development financial institutions such as the ADB or the World Bank, while negotiations will be conducted under a structure where North Korea collects tolls and port usage fees upon completion. Wages will be set at $100, $150 per month, which is 40–50% of the level in Vietnam. However, the existing Kaesong Industrial Complex model will be maintained, where the North Korean authorities allocate and control employment numbers and working hours, and the state collects 30–40% of wages as tax. By operating the Haeju Special Economic Zone as a separate legal entity from the Kaesong Industrial Complex, risks are diversified to allow both complexes to operate independently. This is the optimal strategy for North Korea to prevent the weakening of negotiating power resulting from a single dependency structure. The West Sea Economic Corridor, ranging from Gyodong Island to Haeju to the Kaesong Industrial Complex, signifies not merely the reactivation of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, but the formation of an integrated manufacturing ecosystem along the west coast of the Korean Peninsula, connecting the manufacturing belt of Gyeonggi Province with the labor force and land of South Hwanghae Province. The Incheon Port Authority analyzed that once inter-Korean economic cooperation begins in earnest, the construction of the Nampo Outer Port and the Haeju Gangneong Port is required. As cargo volume is expected to be generated through cooperation in complexes such as Haeju Gangneong, Pyongyang, Nampo, and Sinuiju, in addition to the Kaesong Industrial Complex. If denuclearization is realized, this corridor has the potential to form an inter-Korean division of labor manufacturing ecosystem with an annual output of over 5 billion within 10 years, exceeding 10 times the maximum annual production value of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, which stands at 560 million. The starting point is a single bridge spanning a mere 10 kilometers of sea separating Gyodongdo and Haeju. These are the infrastructure and operational plans for revitalizing the belt. We will establish a north-south mobility integrated logistics hub on Gyodongdo. We will build a smart highway center on Gyodongdo. It will manage CKD parts coming from the south and parts produced in the north in an integrated manner, ensuring a congestion-free logistics flow through a real-time customs clearance system. We will create a green mobility dedicated industrial complex in Haeju. We will develop a large-scale automobile-dedicated complex near Haeju Port. As a solution to energy challenges, we will ensure a stable power supply by connecting offshore power cables along the Incheon Bridge line on Gyodong Island, Korea, or by constructing an LNG combined cycle power plant utilizing Korean technology within the Haeju Special Economic Zone. As a legal safeguard, we will establish the West Coast Integrated Economic Arbitration Center. We will set up an independent judicial body on Gyodong Island to protect corporate property rights even in the event of political conflicts. By having a committee composed of international arbitration experts resolve disputes rather than relying on South Korean or North Korean courts, we will encourage the participation of investors from global parts manufacturers such as Bosch and Continental. Once this belt is completed, it will achieve a second leap forward for the Korean automotive industry. Cost reductions will secure a cost competitiveness of approximately 20–30% or more compared to Chinese-made parts. Supply stability will enable the possession of independent production bases free from geopolitical risks, such as the U.S.-China conflict. Not only does it create jobs, but small and medium-sized parts manufacturers in South Korea can revitalize through production bases in North Korea instead of going out of business, while their headquarters gain the capacity to hire more high-value-added R&D personnel. This corridor is not merely a road, but a symbolic infrastructure for inter-Korean economic integration, with the construction of the Gangwa-Gyodongdo Bridge serving as the first gateway. When combined with the previously discussed division of labor for automotive parts in Nampo Waudo or Kaesong Haeju, the entire West Coast can function as a single supply chain cluster. Next time, we will look at the prospects for the Gangryong International Green Pilot Zone following North Korea's denuclearization. Thank you.